Good evening, everybody. This is the Opinion Guy. I am Charles I. Guarria, broadcasting just minutes away from the world's most famous beach in Daytona Beach, Florida, where Bike Week has ended. Donna and I were on I-95 over the weekend, and we saw a whole bunch of people leaving town with their bikes. Always a great time, always great for the tourism. Love it. As you guys know, if you've been following all week, well, last week, it's the first day of the week. So if you've been following all last week, first day we have a show. You know how much I love it. Yes, unfortunately, I couldn't get out there. I had to apologize to some folks. I told them I was going to be at their show. Had a little personal issue, kept me in Friday and Saturday. But by Sunday, I was out and we had a great time. We went to see Tesla and Bret Michaels play in St. Augustine, and it was awesome. But that's neither here nor there, because tonight I am so super happy because I have been talking about this show and getting a Democratic voice on this show. They're hard to rustle up in these parts, but we've rustled one up. His name is John Navarra. So without further ado, I'm going to bring to you John Navarra. Hey, John, what's going on?
Oh, it's interesting because I teach American government in a public school in high school in Deltona, and a war happened, or what they might be a war, might not be a war. It's controversial in the news, whether it is a war or not, but some kind of military confrontation broke out to be able to discuss the war powers with my students. So it's very timely. You know, I mean, it's a good thing we have casualties, that kind of thing, but the subject was interesting that it happened to break out at a time when we were going over the role of the commander-in-chief, the Congress declaring war, and the current balance between that, the War Powers Act, Public Law 10740, and what constitutionally the president can do, Congress can do. And in the news, there's just so much discussion about what we talk about in class.
Yes. All righty. And we're going to talk about that. That's what we're going to lead off with, but we can't do it without the next two guests, returning champions, Michael Vass and Joe Hannoush. What's going on?
Oh, it's good to be back. Always fun to be here.
I love it.
Hello.
Joe, what's happening? All right. Yeah, this is great. We got 4 squares on the screen. Look at that, everybody. I am loving this. Yes. So folks may have been, and I don't mean personality-wise, I mean actual squares. We're all
young
cool.
kids won't even know what you're talking about in that reference.
And by the way, I do like that the kind of like tints of the colors here. I got the gold libertarian. John's got the blue shirt on.
Yeah.
Michael has got a little bit of red in the background here. And you got the white, the innocent white person that's sort of white colored. That's just like, oh, I'm neutral here. I'm the good guy. Yeah.
I'm the presenter. It pisses people off that I'm neutral. Let me tell you. That was personal to somebody. I love that guy. I think he's great. I have a feeling he's watching, but when you said that, I had to say it. You're great, and you know I love you, and I love what you're doing. I hope he's laughing right now. He may just left. How many viewers do we got? Oh, we lost one. No, I'm just kidding. All right, folks. Nobody knows what I'm talking about but me and that guy. That's called narrowcasting, and we're supposed to be broadcasting. So John was on last week as a political candidate, and now we have 2 because Joe's also running for office, and Michael ran for office. So this is great. You guys have a world of knowledge and a world of background information, boots on the ground type stuff. We are going to kick it off with the war to get things going. I am going to start with one of my favorite segments, the dumbest news item of the week. And folks, that is brought to you this evening by Hakeem Jeffries, who, on a Twitter post, an X post. He is a Brooklyn congressman and leader of the House of Democrats. And in his post on X, just like 4 days ago, he wrote, amongst his diatribe, was Republicans can find billions for bombs, but nothing to bring down your grocery bill or healthcare costs. And I responded dutifully, it is estimated that the Biden administration gave $65 billion to maybe more than $75 billion in military assistance to Ukraine. So first, we're going to honor Hakeem Jeffries with the dumbest news item of the week. And there it is for everybody to read what I just read to you. But that is it. Now, you guys think I'm going to ask you to comment on this, but I'm not. Because I started to think, well, what's the better war for the U.S. to be in? Is it better for us to be in Ukraine, military, not using our weapons, but giving Ukraine just enough to tie? Is it better for us to be in Iran? Is it better to be in both, or to be in neither? And the question is why. So should we be giving billions to Ukraine or billions to Iran, to neither, or billions to fight Iran, to neither or both? And I am going to start with John because he is the new kid on the block. So John, you go first.
Okay. I'm actually a little more hawkish than a lot of Democrats, and a lot of the hawkish Democrats have left the party or are nowhere to be found. But I do believe first that we should support Ukraine. I know that sending boots on the ground for the American people is not popular, but I think we should support the fight against Putin, because I think it is, even though Ukraine is all the way on the other side of the world, that the strength of Putin and what he might do to destabilize Europe could be very threatening to us. And he's also on the border of Alaska with us, which a lot of people don't recognize. So I would support fighting Putin in Ukraine. And I think, too, that Iran being an opponent of us and sponsoring terrorism, it has been a concern of Democratic and Republican administrations to keep us safe from them having nuclear weapons. And the only thing we've really had since last June, when we did the strikes on Iran, is that do we know for sure, and I don't know this question, I don't have any military secrets, any way of knowing more than, stuff in the news, whether they were really close to having, bombs to hit us, or it was ratcheting up really quick. The effect of the bombing in June, I think even possibly the Trump administration, even with their best efforts, may not have known exactly whether some of the bomb areas were hidden. So, I think the way this war has been run, I just have questions on whether the Trump administration has been as honest with us, because it seemed like in earlier wars, now Vietnam, no, but earlier wars, especially with George W. Bush, I remember that one as an adult, he did a long sail of going into Iraq. People disagreed with it to an extent, people agreed with it, but he did a long sail. And this one seemed to happen rather abruptly. And the president didn't seem to address it as well as I would have liked immediately, to put down and say, we went there because of this, went there because of that. And whether it's for regime change, whether it's for that they were going to hit us, whether we're supporting Israel, it's not really clear on those questions. Was it because of Israel? Was it because of regime change, the try for that? Was it because they were really going to hit us very, very soon? I don't know the full answers to that. But Trump seemed to do it for a reason, and he seemed rather vague in his reasoning.
Okay, so if I'm reading you correctly, you favor Ukraine. You're not so thrilled with the Iran war, epic fury.
Yeah, I think if it was absolutely necessary, I would support it, because we have to defend our country. But I think Trump didn't sell it as well as he could have, to say we are at risk. I needed to do this, and this is what we needed to do. We didn't rally the country like I expected, like we did in World War II, like we did for some other actions. World War II was the biggest one. We got hit with at Pearl Harbor, but that was easy to rally, get people behind it. But it didn't seem to be sold. It just seemed to have happened.
Okay, so we're going to go to New York, and Michael Vass, what do you say? Should we be involved in one or which one should we be involved in? Only one? Is one better than the other to be involved in? Should we be involved in both, or should we be involved in neither?
Well, complicated question because we didn't really have a choice with Ukraine. The Democrats put us in there. And I don't mean just Biden, I mean Obama. Back in 2013, 2014, we could have resolved the entire Ukraine issue. Matter of fact, you could go back to the Clinton administration when it was part of that administration where we forced Ukraine essentially to give up their nuclear weapons, the promise that we would go in and protect them against Russia. So we've had a lot of Democrats that put us into a box with that where we didn't really have an option. So that's not really a question. We had to do something because we created the scenario in which something would have to be done. That being said, I don't want to see boots on the ground in the Ukraine. We should see Europe, the EU in particular, step up, and they should be more active. But they've been relying on the United States for decades, just living off of our hard work with our military, 70%, 70, 80% of NATO, and all other UN forces as well. So they've been coasting on our back. Time for them to get up and take care of their own problems in their own neighborhood. That being said, and I don't want to see Putin win. He is winning. That's a problem. That was obvious that he was going to. But hopefully we will see with what's happening in Iran right now that he will have more of a reason to seek peace and actually get a deal with Donald Trump. The reason for that is in Iran was making the drones that were being used by Russia to attack the Ukrainians. It's one of the key factors that has been increasing the amount of attrition the Ukrainians have been having. So by being in Iran for many reasons, which were very clear and were very well explained, I'm sorry, John, I completely disagree with you on that, that we're having multiple benefits. It's not only affecting the Ukraine war, it's also affecting China, by the way, which is helping to prevent China from going into Taiwan. People aren't thinking about that. How? Oil. Iran was selling approximately, I believe 80% of the oil they were selling was going over to China. And as well as Venezuela, which was selling about 54% of its oil, which was going to China. That was building up a fuel base, a reserve for China's fleet, where they're building, their Navy is doubling in size, will be completed by 27, 28. And it was feared that once they had reached that double size, they would go in and try to take Taiwan by force, as they promised under the Biden administration, because Biden was weak as hell, part-time zombie that he was. But now they don't have the fuel they would need to run all of those ships, and therefore their position is limited. So there's a lot of reasons why our going in and resolving this 47-year-old problem that, by the way, was also created under another Democrat, that's Jimmy Carter, who didn't resolve the situation properly. Mind you, when Reagan came in, he didn't get to resolve it either because he was trying to get back the hostages. That was his number one priority. And he had to leave that issue alone. Fine, fair enough. We'll live with that. But where should America be right now? Yes, we're doing a great job. We should have done this a long time ago. I'm glad he's doing it. He didn't waste time saying, let's build a coalition. We don't need it. We are the superpower of the world. People hate that. It's just a fact. We're getting it done. And I think the world becomes safer and more stable because of it. And other people may not like that. Their feelings may be hurt. But the reality is, globally, this is good for America. I've already given 2 examples. There are many others. I'm happy.
Okay. All right. You know what? You touched on something I want you to explain to our audience. I hear you say it on your show all the time. And Michael has a show called No Soundbites Allowed. Definitely tune into that. Sometimes midweek, definitely on Sundays, about 2:30. Michael, right? You go live, and you can go live for multiple hours. So, and I know, and you're a guest on other shows besides this one. So you're out there all over. So definitely watch that show. Also, you have a reason why you don't like boots on the ground. Can you explain your boots on the ground philosophy so people know where you're coming from on that?
Absolutely. Not everyone agrees on this, but here's my reasoning on it. We should never, the United States should never put boots on the ground in any conflict unless we are taking over whatever we land on. The moment a soldier puts his foot onto any ground, I don't care, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, it doesn't matter where it is in the world, Venezuela, we own it. One soldier lands, they're potentially going to bleed or sweat, then we need to own it. They will become our commonwealth at the least for at least 2 generations, and then they can vote on whether they want to be independent, be like Puerto Rico, or become a state. That's the only reason why we should be putting boots on the ground in any conflict. If we're not willing to do that, then we shouldn't be in the conflict at all. We should not be fighting it, at the very least, with boots on the ground of any American soldiers. And there's more to it than that, but that's the bare bones. I hold that for every conflict.
Right.
Oh.
I read that because you feel like, you know, an American soldier is way too valuable unless we totally mean business, and we're not going to risk having our people on the ground there unless we intend to own that. That's because the American citizen value is so high. Is that correct?
Yes, our people are absolutely valuable, and it's also a matter of, are we being serious? If we're seriously trying to win a war, then we win the war. Everything else is a half measure that will not work, and this is why every conflict in the world, every war, the winner owns what they have captured every time. And if you don't, then you have conflict. I think the only way to extend wars.
I think we've been doing half measures ever since World War II. I think that Ukraine was just enough to tie. That's what Biden did. You know, let's embarrass Putin. Let's see how our weapons do against Russia's. Let's learn Russia's tactics in real time, and we'll use the Ukrainian people, send them to slaughter instead of our own. That's what I think Ukraine is. Okay, that was a side note, an editorial comment. And now we're going to go to Joe. Joe, what should we be in Ukraine? Should we be funding the war in Ukraine? Should we have launched Epic Fury? Should we be in both? Neither? What is your opinion on this?
Neither.
Of course. Surprise.
And why?
Yeah. Neither. We should not play world police. I've talked about this before. We should leave other countries alone. We should have sanctions on Russia. We should have sanctions on Iran. We should have when goods cross borders, armies don't. We should have open free trade with people. Respect their elections. I mean, imagine if the government of Iran and the government of Venezuela took out Donald Trump. It would be absurd. We would be, every American, or almost every American, would be going crazy over that. Like, that is not acceptable. Sure. And our government has done that twice in a matter of months.
Good.
It's disgusting. We shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be playing, again, world police or regime makers, building nations. And we wouldn't have enemies if we just opened up trade and Michael, your head is going to fall off your head.
I know.
Mike's going to have to go for a month.
I really disagree with that. But go on. I'm trying not to say anything.
I'm trying for you not to pass out here from your head rolling around. I made my point. That's really it. It's really simple for me. And to go back to the original setup that Charles brought up is, what are we deciding on? These billions, tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions really, going to either affordability, essentially, groceries, medicine, whatever, or we're going to give it to a foreign government. Why don't we? First of all, we're in $2 trillion deficit every year. We're almost nearing $39 trillion in debt. That money belongs to the people. If those people, those individuals, the four of us on here, if we decide we want to give it to the Ukraine government or some nonprofit there helping out refugees, or a school in Iran, something like that, we should be able to decide that individually. Not the government basically spending our money for us, deflating our currency, having rising costs for commodities and goods at the grocery store, based on the government doing whatever they want, whatever they think is right, and our people are dying because of that. I know. I think it was last week, and I haven't heard any updates. We lost 6 service members.
I heard
people. And Michael mentioned, they're valuable. Of course, they're valuable. And how many Iranians have died? How many Ukrainians have died? How many Russians have died? as well. And Israelis and people in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. It's death everywhere. There's no winners in war. We're not winning anything. It's all losses everywhere, economically, militarily, well, maybe not militarily in some cases, but in lives, blood, and money. It's. I'm against it all. Neither is my simple answer.
Okay. Yeah. See, now here's the thing about Hakeem Jeffries, the dumbest news item of the week. If he said that very same thing when Biden was in office, I would be like, you're 100% correct. You'd be the smartest of the week, because we are giving billions for bombs. We're exporting bombs, and we can't take care of our own veterans. But let's fund a war. Let's go to war. That's what America does. We're not actually a peaceful country. We are actually warmongers. Not us. We, the people, generally don't like to fight. The government, boy, they love to bomb the hell out of other people. That's for sure. But you know what? I wanted to circle back to you, John, because you made an interesting point. You're more hawkish than you said than most Democrats. That's the way I heard it anyway.
Yes.
So explain your
that. My evolution. I'd like to do that. What happened was during the Vietnam War, I was very young. I was born right before the Tonkin Gulf Resolution. I was 2 months old when that happened. And as a former history teacher, current American government teacher, that situation was with Lyndon Johnson, was very suspicious, whether we're actually the Maddox and all this. Turner Joy was actually hit or not. It's historically unproven, and no one actually knows. So the thing was, I think in that case, I think Johnson wanted us to get into the war, just not to lose a war. Same thing as Nixon. Nixon and Johnson didn't want to lose a war. So I was very hesitant on my support of the war. But then when the Bosnian crisis happened, and I read these different books about Samantha Power, about some other people, Republicans and Democrats, dealing with the situation, the George W. Bush administration, George Herbert Walker Bush, others, what to do about Bosnia. And I really admired that Tony Blair did not want England to go to war. But then again, when these atrocities are happening, can we just stand by, even though they're another part of the world as Americans, and just ignore it? And so I was more hawkish only because of supporting humanitarian missions, and that we did sign an agreement with the UN that we would prevent genocide. But then again, in Rwanda, in Bosnia, we discussed, was it genocide? Was it not genocide? What is exactly genocide? It was all being parsed, legally. And I thought that it's tough to go into situations. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think that the presidents really deeply think about this and don't want to put Americans in harm's way. But then again, atrocities are happening around the world, like Bosnia, that we did not create. But do you stand by and do nothing? And I think for Tony Blair and for Clinton and for George Herbert Walker Bush, who didn't intervene, I think he did care from everything I saw. Even I'm a Democrat, but I'll say he seemed to care and want to do something about it. And in Bosnia, we actually had no casualties, and we just did bombing, and it wound up having a better resolution. But I think that it's hard for us to stay out of everywhere, but for humanitarian reasons, I'm inclined to consider what America could do. But I do know the value of American citizens, American lives, and I wouldn't ever want to put American life in danger haphazardly. That's basically my view.
I'm hearing that from everybody. Michael, before you go, I do want to say that in our interest, I think the genocide thing is a nice agreement to sign. I don't think we do anything unless it's truly in our interest, which is why we look the other way when some countries are slaughtering their own people, because it's not in our interest to do it. And Michael brought out a good point that's been in the news. I've been hearing a lot lately, and that is China's struggle to get oil because of what's happening in Iran and because what happened in Venezuela. And in fact, in the State of the Union, I know you guys probably caught this. He called Delcy Gonzalez his friend. Why would you do that? Because China was getting, oh, by the way, a lot of its oil from Venezuela, a lot of its oil from Iran, and oil from Russia. Now it's only down to really Russia, and we're destroying. We essentially have a friend now in Venezuela. We're destroying Iran. China is now suffering, trying to build their military. So not only, in my mind, what Trump is thinking is that's like a byproduct of it, right? I can finally get rid of this terrorist supporting state, and our biggest enemy right now, who definitely wants to knock us in the knees and see us, fall to a lower level in the world, is going to struggle without oil. So he may be playing like a 3D chess. Is that the saying here? So it's in our interest to do this, and more than just to free the 90 million people in Iran. So go ahead, Mike. You have some comments?
Well, it's called 4D chess, and some would even say 5D, but it's really not. It's obvious. What Donald Trump is doing is, unlike many presidents, Republican and Democrat alike, is he's actually looking at not what's going to be good news for the next week or the next election. Especially, we saw this under Biden. He was only there for the next election. That was his focus. What we're seeing with Trump and all of his policies are 5 to 10 year policies. They are to develop and build and grow and improve over a 5 to 10 year period. That's the tariffs. That's what we're seeing with the wars and the conflicts that we've been involved in. That's always the end. And I find it interesting that when I hear people say, well, America should only be involved in the genocides. Well, what about the Sudan, where Obama ignored it? Even though he talked about it huge when he was in the Senate and did nothing as he was president, and allowed the genocide in Darfur to continue to go on. How about under Biden, where back on May 5th was the last time that the American government and news media actually talked about the 16,000 Americans that were abandoned in the Sudan because they had another civil war, which is still ongoing, by the way. And those 16,000 Americans were thrown to the wind. We don't know if they all made it back home or not. There's just no way to find out at this moment. And that was because of Biden's botched Afghanistan retreat. Literally, he got beat down by the Taliban, of all people. They opened up the prisons, and ISIS came out, went into Central Africa, and that created the new civil war in Sudan. So we can't look at this as a single. I know everyone wants to say, well, this is a single snapshot and it has nothing to do with anything else. And we hear that a lot in Democrat politics and much of the news media that hate Donald Trump, trying to isolate everything to this one moment. I'll give you a great example, the school that we've been hearing about from almost immediately as soon as it happened. And they've been blaming Donald Trump. Oh my God, he's attacking schools. He's attacking children. America's attacking children. That's a lie. That's stupid. What happened, and now we're only now starting to get a glimpse of the truth, which is, yes, there was an American Tomahawk that hit it's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, one of the largest originators and supporters of terrorism in the world, which is part of the Iranian government. We struck their base, and just like all terrorists, they're using children as a shield. On their base, they have a school. Why do they put a school on a military base where terrorists are trained? So that they can be protected from bombs. Now, the American government, using Tomahawks, tried to be pinpoint as we can. But pinpoint with a 100, 200, 500-pound bomb isn't as pinpoint as you would like. There is a blast radius, and that blast radius went through the 1 foot of wall that separated the school from the base, and that had the injury. That's where it seems to be. And the numbers of individuals and children that may have been affected have been escalating because that's what Iran is reporting. And Iran, a terrorist country, they lie on a regular basis. So I don't trust their numbers. Not that it didn't happen. I don't trust their numbers. But the fact is, we're seeing a lot of people blow up these one moments in a much bigger picture, have no idea what the rest of the conflict is, or what's the cause, what's the current, what's the future, and they're trying to say they're pushing a political agenda because the media has put it in front of them, and certain politicians that they may or may not like have put in front of them this ideology, and people have just bought it hook, line, and sinker. And it's sad. It's really sad, because we can't really have a great discussion, not with you guys, but I mean the general public, because all they hear is the headline, and they go, oh, well, then it must be good or it must be bad because the headline said something, even though there's a lot more detail we need to talk about to even understand what's going on.
Yep. Well, that's why we're spending, look, we already spent 30 minutes just on this question. But I want to put out there for, folks who, this is for everybody around the world, because we are broadcasting around the world. If and when America hits civilians, it is never on purpose. I will go on regular. We don't have that kind of bloodthirsty. We might like wars, but we don't aim at civilians. I am telling you that. That school being hit, I'm still not even convinced. I don't believe either side. I don't believe Iran at all, and I don't believe that we're still investigating it, which is what our administration keeps saying. But I do know, bottom of my heart, that if we hit it, that was by accident. We don't go, oh, look at the school, boom. We don't do that. It's just not what Americans are taught. Michael knows this. I know this. We weren't taught to kill civilians when I went through basic training. Nope. And Michael's a Green, and he knows it. It just doesn't happen. So if it happened, it's an accident. And if there's any way that we can repay those families once this is over, then absolutely we should, because we do have a soul in this country. And I just want to put that out there for the rest of the world to hear. All this talk. Go ahead, John.
Real quick, that I think this points out that I just got an image of that there are two wars. There's one war of the military war, and there's one war of the messaging, because we have 24-hour news. We got a lot of media. We have perceptions of everything. So there are two wars going on, one with the military advantage and one with who's winning the messaging. So who's the aggressor, who's the attacker. That is something that we're going to deal with, I think, with every war now, with 24-hour news, with so much satellites and media all over, that the messaging war is going to be maybe as big as because Putin has a totally different perception of his, he didn't call it invasion, but his going into Ukraine. So his view is totally opposite to Ukraine, totally opposite to others in the world. Not that it's right, but the thing is, he would want to send out a certain message. I don't think he is. He's winning it all. But he wants to send a certain message out. And the Iranians have a certain message. We have a message. And people in the world will figure out, figuring things out.
I agree with that. Totally.
Yeah,
I disagree with that.
All right, hold on. Joe hasn't spoke. Joe, do you think there's a messaging? We get Joe back in this conversation. Do you think there's a messaging war that goes on?
Yeah, absolutely. There's messaging war going on. I mean, that's what propaganda is. It's your government is saying that thing about the other government, and to their people, that's messaging to the enemy's people, the bystanders, if you will, like, whatever, Australia or whatever. It's all. I mean, it's propaganda. It's war propaganda, of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's bigger than the actual hot war, really. But there's a way to avoid even accidentally hitting, school children or whatever, innocent civilians, is by not bombing them in the first place. So I knew Michael was going to disagree with me on that.
All right. The messaging part is very interesting, because a lot of you guys know I have a colleague / friend in the UAE, and we're keeping in touch. And she said Al Jazeera showed a drone hit Dubai International Airport and skid across the runway into an empty plane, into a plane, and there was a big explosion, and ball of smoke and all that. She sent me that, and then she sent me a message that basically, in paraphrasing, was, I keep on hearing everything's okay, but yet I'm seeing these videos all over the place. What's going on? So I told her that there's a perception that the UAE government, which is a kingdom, is working with their influencers in that country to give the perception that everything's okay when it really isn't okay. But she did respond, well, it's safe where I am. And she's like 25 minutes away, for those who don't know, from Dubai. But the messaging in that country is, it's okay. A little drone falls. That's debris from a drone. And then she goes on Al Jazeera and she sees a drone slamming into a plane in a city that's 25 minutes from her. She's like, what the heck is going on? So there is a messaging thing there. Mike, I hand it to you. You're up.
Well, first of all, for the UAE, it is basically okay. Considering the size of the conflict and the growth and the intent of Iran to attack civilians in other countries, having that, and if the drone could have hit an empty plane, it could have hit the main airport itself where civilians are.
Yeah.
They could have. They were, and they probably were trying to, but it could be far, far worse.
Absolutely.
But yes, there is a propaganda there. Now, I don't think that saying that when a empty plane on an airport got hit by one drone is the same thing as the sky is falling. No, I don't blame the UAE for that and trying to keep their people from panicking. Great. But it isn't a propaganda war. It is a propaganda industry that has a very clear objective, at least in the United States and also the EU. We see that the far left have an agenda. This is part of the indoctrination we see in schools and we see in colleges that then leads to these students who have gone through that system, that indoctrination, go into various businesses, including entertainment and news media. And 80% of the news media, if not 90, depending on which institution you're talking about, are leftist, if not hardcore leftist, depending on who's actually polling them at any given moment. And so they have an agenda to push. They have a propaganda target that they're trying to softly guide everyone to. All paths lead to more power for Democrats, more power for their leftist progressive socialist agenda. And people don't like to acknowledge that, but that is what's happening. It's not that there's two wars. There's one war, and there are other events going on, at least in the United States. The one war in America is you must comply. You are being compelled to comply with the democratic leftist socialist agenda, which is always moving further and further left, further and further towards communism, and you having no rights, no individuality whatsoever. And everything else that's happening around is either helping that or hurting that from the leftist ideology. And that's the big thing we're fighting, because we have other people, whether they be independents or conservatives or Republicans, even some libertarians, that are trying to advance America, our quality of life, our stability, our unity, our importance in the world. There are a lot of people working on those efforts, and we're being subverted by this indoctrination cycle that we've been seeing for, I'd say, comfortably at least 5 decades. Some would argue much longer than that. They would go back to the rise of the communist, I should say, communist political movement here in the United States. That would go back to about the 1920s. So depending on how you're looking at it, it's 100 years or something like 70 years of influence trying to destroy the underpinnings of what is the foundation of what is America. So I kind of see it a slightly different way. And I think that's more accurate than we're having 2 wars. No, we're really having one and a bunch of other things that are happening. And we are winning the other objectives largely. And we're losing the indoctrination battle, the propaganda battle, because the people who have control of that, they don't care about anything else, which is why we don't get to hear the news. It's hidden from us on a regular basis. You have to look through 3 different stories, put them all together, and then look at something from overseas to finally figure out what actually did happen, because the left doesn't want to tell you.
Right. And we see it totally differently,
Yes.
Where we see the right as having an enormous power with Fox News, with talk radio, and being very forceful. We see it totally differently. And we see, things totally differently than that.
Okay,
As
that's
Democrats,
why-
you have to be a Democrat to really see it.
wait a minute.
And
Before you do that, I just want to ask you a quick question, John.
Yeah.
Out of just looking at the majors, we won't even get into the minors. How many of the major news organizations in America are left-leaning?
Many, more than half.
Okay, would you agree with every poll that's been done in the last decade at least, that about 80 to 90% of everyone in there, from the editor on down to the reporters, everyone is leftist?
Not everyone, but
No,
I
I'm
do
saying
see it as
80 or
very, very
90%
strong.
of their
But I
staff.
think the counterbalance, I think there's a strong conservative counterbalance that it's America. You have different ideas, but I think that the conservatives in America, for their message, has been very strong, and it's very, very strong message with the media that they do have, with I think with talk radio, with Fox News, with others.
I don't think we're ever going to solve which is stronger.
I can. It's real easy. There's
Well,
three. You can
that's
go
your
three
opinion.
major news media channels: OAN, News Nation, and Fox News.
Yeah.
Those are the three conservatives. And we have ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNN. We have the Huffington Post, the New York Times, the Washington Post. I've already named 8 to 3, and I haven't even gotten into I haven't even covered all the major ones like the Atlantic. We can keep on the Intercept. We can keep going. It is overwhelmingly left-leaning. And the only reason why the left says, oh, no, but it's the right is in control is because, one, it makes them feel good. 2, because America has rejected the left message, and we see that in the ratings of CNN and MSNBC. We see that
Fox
in
News
ABC
ratings,
and the
thanks
rest.
too, Mike. Fox News ratings are not good either. They're losing people.
I'm not saying it is, but
they
it
may
is
be higher than the other ones. Okay,
dramatically more than the
Joe's
other.
going to go. Joe's going to go. Go ahead, Joe.
And that's the good transition point right there, Charles. The ratings are very low. I think what Michael, the way you're referring to like the major ones, it's really more of the legacy ones. They're kind of, not to mix a pun here, but they're kind of old news. What is new media is this. It's no sound bites allowed. It's Larry Sharp's Sharp Way. It's Joe Rogan. It's a dozen, or not even a dozen, tens of dozens of other media, basically. A lot of people are following them now, and to the point, the ratings have been falling there. These are. I agree, by the way, with the rest of the panel here. The majority, certainly the majority of these legacy, I'm going to call them legacy media, is yes left leaning, if you will. But as far as like all media across the board, and Charles and John, I'm not sure if you remember Mark Bernier here locally, political news radio guy. Not very conservative. He was conservative, but he was like more fair or whatever. He had me on radio, so I think he's fair. But he would be, the radio would be more conservative leaning. So it would be, depending on what you're listening to, that's what you're gonna listen to. So it's, to me, it's 50-50, but it could be a margin of error of like 20%. Again, it depends on what you're listening to. So
I still disagree.
That's why people have to come. That's why people have to come to this show, because we have a Democrat, a Republican, and a Libertarian on the show, and we also like to laugh. And this takes us to the funniest news item of the week, brought to us by Reason TV. Is it war? This cracked me up. So here we go, folks.
It's hilarious.
You gotta see this. I'm sharing the screen, and let me bring it up. Whoa, where is it? I see it there. How come I can't grab it? 1 second. Is it war? Here we go. This is so funny.
Welcome back to Is It War? World War I. War. Correct. World War II. War. Correct. The Vietnam War. War. Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. That was a congressionally authorized counteroffensive. Don't worry, we get right back on track with the Korean War. War. No, that was police action.
No, they had tanks and stuff.
Well, the police have tanks now, don't they, Carl? Okay, the First and Second Iraq War.
War.
They identify as military action. It's a bit like pronouns, except we kill people. All right, how about Libya?
War.
I'm sorry, that was kinetic action, not a war. Venezuela.
Well, it was
was an act of war, I think. No, I'm sorry. That was a law enforcement operation, not a war. Iran. It's a war. We're doing war things. No, not war things. Preemptive retaliatory de-escalation action. No, that's not a thing. All right, judges. Okay, how about the war on terrorism? War. No, it was a coalition-led conditional operation. How about Afghanistan? Afghanistan was the war on terror. No, I'm sorry. That was a pre-authorized defense stabilization initiative. Okay, can somebody tell me the rules here? War on poverty, Carl. Well, poverty? That's not even a thing. I'm sorry, I hate to do this to you. It was a trick question. We don't have poverty in the United States. The Dow went up to 50,000. Couldn't even get that high. Amazing. Don't even worry about the Epstein files. War on Christmas. The coffee cup thing? No, that's not a war. There's a war for the soul of the nation and whether or not I can wish my children Merry Christmas. Okay, you know what? I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. Today's magical phrase, Carl, you just became a United States Congressman. Congratulations, Representative Carl. Merry Christmas. It's March. Well, okay, Happy Hanukkah.
Smug. Very smug.
In Reason Magazine, speaking of the media, are libertarians. They're kind of middle of the road. They're on both sides.
I love when he says, I don't want to do this anymore. He becomes a congressman.
And I got to admit, that when I ask my students where they get their political information, it's on. They say social media, whatever that might involve. And I got to admit, I don't know how Mike sees it, but I got to admit, I don't know what left, right, libertarian, whatever is social media overall. I have no idea. I couldn't put a pin on it. I don't know.
I can tell you that the most popular people are predominantly more right-leaning, not necessarily Republican, not even necessarily conservative, probably more center-right, like America traditionally has been seen, center-right. But the thing that is countering that, and a lot of people don't take into account, every single one of the major platforms, except for X in the last 5 years, have massive algorithms that try to shadow ban and just eliminate, and tens of thousands a year of more center-right channels are eliminated. And we have algorithms that reduce and make it more difficult for center-right program or content to reach people. And that's especially true. TikTok, about 2/3 of everything I submit there, they don't show to anyone. It's there. They don't show it to anyone. We've seen since 2018, every single year, the 3-4 major platforms, providers come before Congress, and every single year, up until Elon Musk taking over X, every single one of them would suddenly admit, oh yes, we had an algorithm error, and sadly 800,000, 1 million, tens of thousands of conservatives and Republicans were somehow disallowed the access to the internet, and this includes members of Congress. Happens every year since 2018. Within the last 5 years, X hasn't had that, but before then, always. So it's not like it's a fair playing ground. It's not. We got a couple of stars, yes, just like Fox, yes, stands out. And then you look at the vast horizon where most of those kids are getting it, and a lot of them are going to either Instagram or to TikTok, which are feature 1 minute, 30-second, 15-second, 1 minute length content, which is not enough to give you any knowledge about anything. It'll give you a feeling, but it won't give you knowledge. And all of that being promoted to them is left-leaning. And that's a problem.
John, what grades do you teach? What age?
I teach 12th, and I do have this as evidence, anecdotal. It's not scientific, but I did do the election thing, like before the election, who you're going to vote for, that kind of thing. And it seemed to come out about 80% Republican with my students.
This is a very Republican area.
Right. I mean, I got to admit that. So if they're being indoctrinated, and I don't know for sure, because I say, where do you get your information from for an AP class, stuff like that? And they say TikTok. And the thing is, you can see so much, I guess, on TikTok, but I don't go on TikTok. And so I don't know really honestly what's out there. And So, but I do think that from what I noticed, they're generally Republican, at least the students I have in Deltona. And there's some Democrats. And for most, I got to admit, we, you know, I don't know what they are. Democrat, Republican, they have to reveal themselves. We have to be, you know, careful as teachers, stay as unbiased as you can in the classroom.
Best thing I've ever heard from a teacher is what you said there, John. I don't know where they are. You shouldn't. The students shouldn't know your politics, and you shouldn't know their politics, nor should the students know anything about your personal life, because that has nothing to do with teaching them. Sadly, I live in New York State, and if you go to California, you'll get another reaction as well. You're in Florida. That's probably why you're seeing what you're seeing. But if we look at the data and the information we've been getting from California, from Boston, from Chicago, New York City, New York State, we can go to Austin. We hit the bluer than blue states and cities. That's not the reaction. That is not what we are seeing. And the indoctrination is something that we can it is being documented. Math, you've heard about this, John. Math is racist. Came out of California 6 years ago. It's still around. It's being promoted in various schools throughout Chicago and in New York. We keep seeing iterations of math is racist. 2 + 2 = racism. That's stupid. Has nothing to do with math. That is pure political ideology, and it is being pumped into our kids. It's still moving around in our schools, some of them, in the bluer than blue states. And sadly, that's where most of our kids are, in those major metropolitan areas.
Let's get back to the question of social media. I want to know Joe's opinion. Do you think social media is left, right, or the libertarians plowing through in the middle and going to take over all social media? What's the answer?
I like the last one. I'd like to believe that libertarians are going to break through and we're going to crush it. We're going to have Larry Sharp taking over. We're going to have Charles taking over. Oh, sorry, you're not libertarian. You're independent. Sorry.
I lean libertarian.
Definitely, my little walk and talks that I do when I'm out on a run, those updates are going to go through the moon. I'm going to have more than one viewer soon. No, I'd love to believe that, but like Reason Magazine, the little clip that we had earlier. I mean, I'm being biased here, obviously, but I think libertarians are kind of maybe not like quote unquote the middle, but to me they're the ones that are kind of like it's like South Park, right? South Park. A lot of people grew up with South Park. I mean, I was a teenager when that came out, right? And they're kind of libertarians. They kind of call out both sides. And you look at voter registration. Independents are actually the plurality for people underage, like so-called South Park folks. They're independents. They're not Republican majority or Democrat majority. I think that's a good thing. And again, like with social media, we're getting these independent people out there. So I hope anyway they're not skewed left or right. Because again, Charles, you created this one. You got everybody on here. You got Democrat, Republican, Libertarian on here. So I think you're doing it right. I think this should be the model going forward. That's my own opinion. But I do want to say, oh God, I forgot it. Michael, what were you talking about before I started talking?
The algorithm.
I don't remember.
But
social media, algorithms, congressional hearings. I cover a lot of ground.
No, I know. There's like the last sentence you had. I was
indoctrination of people that
college students,
young students. What indoctrination is there? Education not being teachers not twisting the minds of kids.
There we go. Wow, I almost lost it.
I should have started with that. It was perfect.
Yeah. That was me. All my fault. I went down that road. If you think of it, mention it. But we're going to stick with you because you did some interesting petition work. You were at a group from a town not too far from me and you and John called Ormond Beach. And there's a group called the Republic Conservatives Ormond Beach. And you were there gathering petitions to let Volusia County residents vote on toilet to tap. Isn't that correct? Do I have that right? Is that what you're doing there?
For the most part, I was not like the lead person or anything. I was just there. I was actually invited by the group leader, Chuck Hollins, who Chuck is he's a great guy. I don't agree with him on everything as far as politics go, but he's just a great guy. 91 years old and very sharp.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah. Anyway, he's a good, very active not social, but like a political activist, basically. And he's been very kind to me over the years. He's kind to everybody. You know, they dropped the Republican name and went Republic because I think
I noticed that
dropped them. Anyway, so it was this guy named Greg Gimbert, who's again another local political activist here in Volusia County. He was the featured speaker, the keynote speaker, and he was pushing these petitions. And what I did was he gave it out to everybody. So there was a couple of challenges out, like which candidate can get more or whatever. So I did take like a handful of the petitions to get them signed whenever I run into anybody. And that's when I made the post on social media that if you come into come around me or whatever, ask for one of the petitions so we get that signed. And what this petition does is, I don't know if you wanted to talk about it or me, Charles, but
no, go for it. You were there. You were on the ground.
What this petition does, there's something called toilet to tap. It's really a statewide thing, but specifically our county. They want to take treated sewage water, and pump it directly underneath the aquifer, so the lower layer of our aquifer here in Florida. It's basically taking toilet water and putting it in your tap, essentially. So that's what the term toilet tap.
Let me just interject one thing here, because it's interesting. It happens to the city that's really on the hook for putting it underneath the aquifer right now is a city that, John, you teach in, Deltona. And their mayor, I have a blog on this, his quotes are more of like, that's not what we want to do. We're innocent. I can go and grab those quotes. And other people on the council say there's no way in the world. It's crazy to think that we would ever want to have our own children, our own grandchildren be drinking toilet to tap. But yet this is a huge fear. And people obviously don't believe them. They are politicians and they have the right to speak their mind. But at the same point, I mean, I don't believe any politician. That doesn't mean I don't want to interview you. You can be on my show and you'll have your say without fear of repercussions, because you have an opinion that should be heard. But I'm not, it's hard to believe. And people let Volusia vote, which Greg runs. And you and Greg were at this meeting in Norman Beach, are trying to get this on the ballot so we can go vote on it. Daytona Beach is making moves to make it clear, put it in their charter, which has to be voted on by the people, which is great, that the charter is like the constitution of that particular town. They have to work by that they'll never do toilet to tap. So Daytona Beach is taking a lead here, and Greg was actually at one of their city hall meetings and thanked them very much. And he's been very critical of the mayor, but thanked them very much for moving forward on that. Greg and I were talking before tonight's show, and he was saying that we, I guess Volusia as a whole, are either going to be the next one to fall to sewage water, or we're going to be the first one to stop it. And that's what you were doing there that day, Joe. That's what Greg and Let Volusia Vote is doing. I had a chair, Jeff Brower, not in his role as chair, on representing Let Volusia Vote, and we did like a whole hour and a half on this. John, just so you know, I want to get your opinion on this as well. But Greg says he believes that they will be the ones to stop it. It's going to be us. We're going to change the future of development in Florida. And he believes that the results of his actions are not in his words and how his speeches go, but in the amount of petitions that he receives. And that's, Joe, you were helping him do that. And I am all for the people voting. I know, Michael, you had an interesting comment. You were like, I'm paraphrasing you, but you could say, I'm sure better than me. You had said like, you didn't think it was a big deal until Joe said toilet to tap. And then you went, that is pretty disgusting. Am I recalling your vote, your feelings on that correctly?
Well, I didn't know much about it. I mean, there is a lot of water treatment of various types that we see across the country. And some of them are very effective, some aren't, and there's a mix. I'm sure some of that same concept, toilet to tap, is happening in New York State, probably New York City, to be realistic, probably also LA, because of the size, because of the volume that we take in. But I don't think most people know about it. I don't. I hadn't heard of this concept before. It's unsettling. It's not, I understand water's treated, but still, it's unsettling. I'm not loving the idea.
It's gross.
And I don't know anything about it, but just at its face, I don't like it. I don't like it. I need to be convinced. But you guys know you're dealing with it, so tell me. I'm learning. You got something I didn't know.
Yeah, and there is science behind it. It like the reasoning behind the government wanting to do it is that we're first of all we're cheating it, so everything's okay anyway, and then we're putting it underneath the lower layer of the aquifer. So that all that does, we're not pumping from the lower layer of the aquifer. We're pumping aquifer water from the top layer, right? So if anything, it acts as a helping the pressure come up. However, this is still sewage water, and pretending that it's somehow the water is going to stay there is just pretend. It's false. And to get the water down there, it's like fracking. You're breaking the earth the way it's created, and again, pretending that there's not going to be seepage going in and out it's fantasy, pretend. So it's like kind of like out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. You don't see it happening, so it's not there. But it's the same thing with the like a related issue is the septic tanks. You don't see them, but they're there, and some of them start leaking and create environmental issues that way. So, and by the way, I just want to clarify, I'm not part of the organization that's doing this. I'm a believer in it, so I signed a petition. I got some blank petitions to try to get more signed for them. I do, if it does make it to the ballot, I do plan on voting in favor of it. As Charles, you've seen my post, like I'm promoting it as well. But I have just for disclaimer purposes, I don't have any official affiliation with Let Pollution Vote.
Well, what we need to know is if Deltona actually does shoot their treated water under the aquifer, John, will you still use the water fountain?
Wow, that's kind of tough there. I do know this a little bit from working in Deltona, that one fact that I think is totally fact, I've heard it lots of times, is that a lot of people in Deltona, maybe because of where it is, maybe because of the situation where they built Deltona, that most people are still using septic tanks, and it costs a lot to all of a sudden convert it to as other communities have, just say, well, we'll get rid of septic tanks and we'll just have the sewage and stuff taken care of by the city instead of septic tanks. But these are not extremely wealthy people on the whole, and in Deltona, where a lot of working people can afford to make that shift. So there's a concern that it's better for the environment to change over from septic tanks, but it is very costly. And that seems to be the issue. But toilet to tap is different than the septic tanks. So I haven't heard of the septic tank issue for a few years now. It hasn't been really spoken about. People don't really discuss it at my school. But I do know that was concerned years ago that people had septic tanks. They moved into a house and it was with a septic tank, and that you'd clean it out. You'd have that done. Of course, a company comes in, but changing Deltona to Deltona sewage system was just very expensive for taxpayers, maybe, or maybe just for the homeowners themselves. And that seemed to be where a lot of the issue is without any economic help making that transition. And so I think a lot of people still have the septic tanks.
I'm just a little I'm a little not clear. Does that tie into toilet to tap somehow?
No. But that's just a thing that for Deltona you talked about septic tanks and that. And I'm not sure. I could be very wrong. I don't know the science of it very well. But could a community really have that much of power on the aquifer to put things in a certain spot of the aquifer? I don't know. I'm not expert on that. I can't, I'm just going off the top of my head where they're able to do that. It's a pretty extraordinary feat, but I've never worked in a water department. I've never worked with sewage. I'm a total unknown to that, but I know the aquifer is, very large underneath us. And I do know people who work in that kind of thing would know where the sewage went and everything else. And I'd certainly probably I'd be guessing on a lot of it. But for toilet to tap, from what I've researched before the meeting and stuff, since it's a big issue in our community now, is that scientifically, from what I did research, as long as it was correct, was that you could use ultraviolet rays to treat the water. You use things to get out the viruses and the bacteria and all that. And it's very costly. And you need a lot of money up front. You can't just do it on the fly, from what I've heard. I could be very wrong. And you have to create this system that's very expensive to treat this water. And then if people know it's toilet water been converted, people would not really want to drink it. So I think that there's a lot of money up front that has to be spent. It can't be done like tomorrow, but I could be very, very wrong, because it seemed like what I was reading from many different sources, and I've heard it before, treating the water, it seemed to be consistent. What people were saying was, you can do it, and it's like a last ditch effort maybe, but would people really want to drink it once they found out where the water came from? And then you'd have a thing where no one wants to use their water. And I would hope that there would be a plan B. I would not want that to be plan A. Yeah.
All right, Joe, 1 second. I know you want to go, but 1 second. So, John, you are going to be a member of the Daytona Beach City Commission if you win Zone 1. Are you in favor of it going into the charter, or are you not?
I do not. I want to do all I can to avoid having the toilet to tap. I do not. The last thing I want to do is toilet to tap. There has to be some other way. And we do have a water shortage issue that we wish we could live in some land in which we that wouldn't be a reality. But a lot of people are moving here. The aquifer is finite, and there's only so much water to go around. So I think the people that speak about a possible water shortage, just beyond Democrat and Republican, a possible water shortage is just a reality, and it's something that we're going to have to deal with. But and I've heard of toilet to tap many years ago.
Really? It's been around for a while, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Joe, go.
Yeah, and again, this is based on what Greg Gimbert was saying on Saturday during his speech. As John mentioned, they are doing it in Tampa right now. They are putting water, this treated water, into the aquifer, down there. I wish I had the images here. If you have Greg Gimbert on, he'll explain all this. But basically, there is the water comes in and out, right? So they're putting it in an area, the treated wastewater, putting it in an area where supposedly the water goes out. And then when we're taking water in, it's like from a different source or whatever. So they say it's not mixing, but it's government science, so I don't really trust it. And to John's point, he touched on this, like using UV rays or other kind of treatments on it. There was another young lady. She's actually running for office. Geez, I wish I could remember her name. Anyway, sorry, I don't. Oh, Stephanie. Okay, I don't know it. Anyway, she talked about the technology right now does not clean everything from the water. So we are still drinking stuff that could cause cancer. And they showed, pictures of fish that are in the area They can't link the treated sewage water to the impacts on the higher cancer rates in people, the abnormalities with the fish in the area and that water. But it is a coincidence, right? So it's not a direct link, but it is something to think about. So there are issues with that, and God, I wish I could remember her name. She's said a lot of good things about this issue, but sorry.
Okay.
She's also a candidate in Bush County, by the way.
Yeah. Just you brought up an interesting thing about Greg. He has an open invite to be on the show, and I think he knows that. We were actually in a discussion, me, Greg, and a councilman, David Santiago, and the back and forth. At one point, I wrote it there. I said, Greg, you know, anytime you want to come on, you can come on, and I'll say it here. You know, I free and open exchange of ideas and of opinions. I personally do not want toilet for tap. That doesn't mean I'm not going to have people on here who don't think who want it. They could definitely come on here and talk about it. It's a free and open exchange of ideas and of opinions. That's what this show is all about. Just because I have somebody on doesn't mean I agree with them. Just because I don't push back doesn't mean I agree. I am agreeing with them. Everybody has a right to their opinion, and on this show, you get that right. And in my writing, personally, you get that right. Greg, you have an open invitation anytime you want to come on the show and discuss it. I actually believe Greg is on the right path with this, and he can come on and talk about it. And I'll give him the same floor I give anybody else on this issue. So he knows that. We spoke earlier today by phone, and I think he's a great human being. So definitely come on, Greg, when you want. I think we pretty much nailed that one, John. I wanted you on the record on this show for that, because I think we talked about that when you were on as a political candidate as well. Hal has a point here. Let's see what Hal has to say. Hal from New York. The odds are extremely high. Every drop of water you sipped has been at some point inside another organism.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and solid chance it was passed through another living thing. That's true.
Let me touch on that. Let me touch on that. Okay, so we do have an ecosystem, right? In the world, we're all from the same matter, right? The same whatever math. I don't know the scientific term, but we're all from the same stuff, right? There is a natural way for whatever you believe, for however long the Earth has been here. The water has been, cleaning itself, and our bodies have been adapting a certain way over time. That is not what we're doing now. Toilet to tap is really, we're engineering a new process to drink water. It's not like from the mountains we're still doing that, but this is a different process. We're engineering it differently. So we don't know how our bodies are going to react to it until we adapt over how many generations. We're going to look like mutants after a while. So that part is different. So that to the commenter's point, there is a natural filtration process that the toilet tap just injecting into the aquifer. The water in the aquifer got there somehow, and it's not because the government put it there. What this is the government putting the water there and doing their own treatment for it. That's not natural. So that's my issue with it. It's not the natural way that water has been, done basically.
Right.
And there's a concern on these. I don't know if Joe has heard much about it, but there are these particles that, from what I understand, they don't break down.
Right.
And that those are hard to get rid of, and you have to have filtration stuff, but it's really hard to get rid of those. And there's a big concern with them in our bodies and stuff. These
prions. Are you talking about prions? I think prions.
I don't know what they're called, but the young lady that spoke with Greg on this on Saturday, there are these little, like, I don't know if she used tapeworms was the term or something like that. Basically, these parasites that live in for fecal matter that cannot be taken out, cannot be distilled or whatever, and that when you drink it, you're drinking that stuff. You're drinking the when you take medicine and then you release the medicine through waste. Some of that stuff can't get cleaned up, can't get treated by what we're using today. And then when someone drinks it next, through this toilet tap thing, it's someone else is drinking someone's medicine that they took for some other issue. So that's another thing, is like certain parasites are too small, they can't be killed. And certain things that are manufactured, like medicines, are going to be in the stuff too.
Well, I was just checking this out, and I get it. If we're going through the natural process, and the world does, everything is recycled. Air is recycled. Everything is recycled by the planet through the biosphere, given. And that process can take 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. Depends on where you are, depends on what aspect of whatever is being there, whether it's air or whether it's dirt or whether it's water or any other object. I did double check, by the way. New York City does not do this. I just checked.
Thanks for doing
it. We do treat wastewater, and it is released into the water table, but not directly into the aquifers. So we're probably getting some of it back in the aquifers through the natural osmosis, which may or may not filter it more. The problem, I think, is this isn't going through the natural process that could take 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 100 years. It's not going through that process. And it is being accelerated. There's always parasites in the water, always. Well, if you taste real water, there's minerals, there's parasites, there's everything in it. That's why regular spring water tastes very different than tap water, because it has all those things. Most of that stuff's not going to bother you. It's not. It's part of nature. Doesn't matter. Right. The medicines, I mean, they're there. They've always been there. It's not as big a problem as people tend to say it is. But again, this is a subject. Here's the thing. No one wants to talk about it. Hal's right. No one wants to talk about it. Everyone feels thrown off about it. And I don't think anyone, I've not heard about in 20 years. I don't recall I've heard about this specific kind of issue. And that should concern people. I'm a news junkie. I follow everything across the world. I really haven't heard about this. People, and regardless of political affiliation, haven't brought this up to me, even when I was running for Congress. That means there's a lot of knowledge. If we as a group, and we're probably in the top 5% of people tending to look for these kind of things, and if we have very little idea about it to none, the average person has no idea. That's dangerous.
It's not a problem. It's a hot topic down here, and I'm glad we're bringing it to the rest of the world and making people aware of it. No, Hal did write. It's just gross to think that it happened just last week, and that's that is definitely it's like it's psychological warfare. it's the propaganda. No, it is really gross when you think of it in those terms, for sure. But having this even as an issue really goes back to Greg Gimbert and Kimbert and I don't know who else he actually is working with this on. Jeff Brower, I know, is a representative of it, but I don't know who founded Let Volusia Vote outside of Greg. But yeah, they really made it an issue. It's talked about a lot around here, and it's good for the rest of the world to be hearing this. Thanks for everybody for chiming in on that. I am going to ask you guys to go all the way back to February 24th, because I want to talk about the State of the Union. And a quick question on that. Was that?
You said February 24th.
Yeah.
We're going back 2 years. Okay. So Biden, under Biden. Go ahead.
No, February 24 of 2026. I'm talking about last week.
That's why I wanted to clarify. It wasn't sure.
I was being facetious thing going. It got so blown out of the news because of the war started just a little bit after that it basically wasn't. We didn't even get to it last week. But general question, and Mike, I'll start with you. Are State of the Unions significant? Do they have any impact anymore?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
both on a national and international level. The purpose of the State of the Union has evolved from just simply saying, hey guys, here's our checkbook. This is how we're doing. We now are, because we are a superpower, because the president is the highest office in almost the world, you could say, in some aspect. Everyone's looking at what's being mentioned. If something, it's a very concise speech, so anything that's mentioned is magnified in politics. It's the difference between no one funding an idea and something getting $10 billion in funding. It's the difference between a nation knowing that they're about to be attacked or a nation that is going to get government aid. So it's very important in that sense, in the political sense, both internationally and here internally in America. But it's also about the confidence of the American people in understanding, will we maintain the quality of life? Will my children be able to have the same quality of life? Do I get an indication that I need to get rid of or replace, vote out this politician or that politician or this political ideology versus another one? It's a lead in, and that's why it's very important, especially in election years. It gives people an idea of, well, this is the path we're on. Do I want to stay on it? Mm-hmm. And I think that's very politically important. Like at this moment, we see this. Donald Trump has, in terms of mass deportations, 54% of America still agrees with that, still supports that very much so, because it's a good thing to do, because we have to correct the errors of prior presidents. It also gives us a very clear path forward. In 2026, we saw something we really haven't seen in a State of the Union before. Democrats, the elected officials, as a difference from other rank and file regular people, the elected people they decided that they would not accept, acknowledge, or respond to protecting American citizens. That is the purpose of government. And I think that was the most powerful moment of pretty much almost any State of the Union I've heard in my life, perhaps except with the exception of 9/11, where they were asked to do what is the purpose? Why do we have governments? Any government in the world in history is to protect the people from things they cannot protect themselves from, to protect the citizens. And they refused that call to action, to acknowledge that is their purpose, why they swore their oath of office to the Constitution and to represent and serve the people, their servants. And they rejected that. They don't care about America. If it were up to me, and I said this at that moment, I've said it since, every single Democrat that sat down at that moment, every single one of them should be replaced. Every single one of them. Doesn't mean you have to replace them with another Republican or a conservative or a libertarian. That's your choice. I'm not telling people what to vote for, but I believe that statement was not treasonous, but insurrectionist. It spells the destruction of America. Long term, not necessarily short term, not in revolution, but they are willing to destroy the foundation of this nation because of politics and petty power. And that, you can't have a country based on that.
Okay, and you feel that makes the State of the Union important because things like that are shown? Like that moments like that happen. Okay, Joe, one of the things that I find about the State of the Union, like no president's going to get up there and say my plan stinks. You know, the country's horrible. My plan stinks. We're weak. They all say we're strong and it's going great and the economy could be in free fall. And both the Democrats and the Republicans do this, and they'll be like, no, everything is good. You look because of this, and ignoring all of that. So, is this just a show? Is this important, or is there significant things that come out of it? Joe.
My fellow Americans, the state of this union is strong. Who said that? Literally every single president ever since the beginning of the country.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Everyone has said that. It's just propaganda. It's free advertising for whatever political party has the president in office right now. Because it's every news network, like we're talking about it right now. Every media attention is focused on that. Larry Sharp talked about it. Michael Vass talked about it. We've talked about it. Like every show, MSNBC, Tucker Carlson, whoever the thing is, they've all talked about what did Trump say at the State of the Union. Before that, what did Biden say at State of the Union? What did Clinton say at the State of the Union? It's free advertising and advertising of propaganda. And to the point of watching who stands up, who sits down, that's part of the show. It's part of it's subconsciously telling people, oh, I'm supposed to believe in this thing, or I'm supposed to believe in that thing. It's all fake. It's all, and I agree with Michael, replacing all the Democrats, and I go further, or replace all the Republicans as well. It's replace them all with libertarians. By the way, I think we should do that.
Yeah,
but it's all just a show. What happened at this is like when Obama was president. There was a member of Congress that said, "You lie," screamed out in the middle of that. And that was a big deal. What have we seen when Biden was president? I remember he was talking about, the Republicans want to get rid of Social Security. The Republicans erupted. They were like, no, we don't. We want to protect Social Security, whatever. And President Biden, I don't know if he was kidding or not, but he was like, oh, okay, I'm glad to have you guys on our side, or whatever that thing is. And now we had, when Trump, just this last time, there was a member of Congress, a Democrat, had some
Al Green,
like a little banner or whatever, said something, I don't know, but basically it was like anti-Trump, anti-whatever he was doing. So, and then what does Trump do? And again, every president has done this. They just use people that are in the news lately and say, okay, here we're just recognizing this person. Like, for what? It's a circus. It's like, look over here, I'm doing something good. Applaud me. I care about whatever the thing is. I care about our U.S. hockey team beating the Russians, whatever the thing is. It's propaganda. I can't believe that people pay attention to it. I'm insulting literally everyone in America right now.
Yes, you are. Yes, very much so. Yes.
I watch everyone just because I feel like it's important. I think the president of the United States speaking is something that we should hear. I think it's a lot of platitudes, but I do want to hear it. And John, you're up. I think I know where you're going with it based on the way your head shook at one point. But you're up, John.
One thing before you start, I just want to clarify: the person who got kicked out, we know who that was. It was Representative Al Green of Texas, who has lost the primary. He's being kicked out. He held up a sign that said, the Obamas are not apes, and then cursed out Donald Trump and was causing a ruckus, was asked to leave, refused, and then was escorted out. Second time he's been kicked out of the State of the Union. But I just wanted to clarify who that was and what the status is. Go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
Okay. That's fine.
It's interesting, the perceptions. But first of all, in the Constitution, it states that from time to time, might get it right, I'm an AP government teacher, from time to time, the president will give a report on the state of the nation. And that's where it's in the Constitution. So it's a responsibility. The early founding fathers, unless I'm very mistaken, had sometimes given a written report to Congress, because this was an age before television, before they really wanted to go in person. It lasted up until about Woodrow Wilson, actually. And then after that, television, radio, it became more pronounced. And one thing that I learned with teaching AP is I had this pre-AP training for schools. And they said that, what is the audience of someone? And so the president's speaking a lot of different audiences. He's speaking a lot now, the way the country is, Democrat or Republican. The main thing person they're speaking to is their base. And they're also speaking to people in the country. They're speaking to people who don't support them. They're speaking to people who support them. They're speaking to people from other nations. and they're sending clues to other nations, and other nations will try to pick up the clues and analyze it and think, what can we get from the US? What could we fear from the US? So there are all kinds of signals, probably with a State of the Union message. And Gerald Ford, I remember when I was like 12 or so, he came out, and the country was in a severe recession under many presidents. And he said, the state of the nation is not good. And it could be a positive where you take over, a Democrat or Republican could take over in a bad economic shape. And then it's a matter of whether you're going to improve the economy or not, whether you're going to rebound or not. And it's up to them to do their policies. Now, years ago, a big difference, I think, was, and maybe Joe will, I have to plug in my computer, maybe Joe will, or Mike remember this, but that years ago, what I'm going with is the presidents like Reagan when he came in, or some other presidents, Clinton, maybe not fully supportive, but the presidents used to come in hard economic times, FDR, whoever, and they were pretty much past their plans for the country because the poor economy was going on, that we were in a recession, and they were rebounding. So it's a time too for the president to give out his priorities or her priorities and get the country to rally around it. But it has become a lot of theater. And I got to admit, even for Obama, he did yell at the Supreme Court one year, and the presidents do get angry with the Supreme Court, but the kind of supposed to, because the checks and balances, if presidents aren't mad, the checks and balances aren't working right. That's the thing where the checks and balances, the separation of powers, he has to convince Congress of what he wants to do. A lot.
We're losing you, John.
I don't know where the police are.
I'm in New York City. I'm in the Bronx. This is pretty common. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
John,
wow. Now you're losing Mike.
John, you're in and out. We got. I'm hearing it. Yeah, you're in and out a little bit.
You broke up a little bit right at the end when you were talking about even Obama was using the bully pulpit.
And was mad at the Supreme Court.
He was mad at the Supreme Court. And a lot of presidents have done that over the years.
I think that there is some notes here and there that are interesting, like when Trump signaled he's happy with Venezuela and Delcy Gonzalez when he said our new friend and partner, and he's like, okay, and Trump has said he's not. It's pretty obvious that Trump didn't really want democracy in there. It was pretty obvious from the beginning of that he didn't want to. He wanted Maduro. He didn't care if Delcy took over, and now he's saying my friend and partner. I know Rubio said down the road, but right now we just need stabilization. I wonder. Let's go down this road for a second here. If a deal was worked out, and we may have back channeled to Delcy Gonzalez and said, "Hey, we're taking out Maduro, and we don't care if you're there as long as you play ball with us and you give us, your oil to our companies. Stop the China thing. We talked about that earlier, and the Cuba thing. And I'm hearing Cuba's in a whole lot of trouble with their oil situation right now. Just deal with us, and we'll call you our new friend and partner, and you could have the power. You're the VP." I'm wondering if there was some back channel signaling there, because the henchmen are still there. It hasn't really changed in Venezuela other than we're getting their oil. But the same security forces are still there. The people still don't have anything. Nothing is really changing other than we're getting their oil, which isn't a bad thing. No, that is true. I hear that in a lot of places, and I will link to that. But if you heard in other places differently, I'm hearing on a right-leaning show called the John Bassel Show that things aren't really changing there. But perhaps that source was wrong. But so I'm wondering if that's the deal. But he signaled that he was happy. And yeah, personally, there's way too much clapping going on in those things. It's like unneeded. We could save like 15 minutes if you just you don't have to go, America, we're doing great.
15 minutes, you can save half an hour at least.
Can you stop? Just let the man speak. Yeah, exactly. And Trump put way too many. Reagan started the citizen thing just for the sake of history here. He's the one who actually started bringing people on, for doing honorable things and that kind of stuff. Trump just did way too much of that. Bringing 2 or 3 people, okay, great.
Yeah, introducing like your wife and the first lady and all that stuff, like all that should be gone, just completely gone. It's cheap. It's cheap applause is all it is. It's completely cheap. And the whole like coming in and like shaking everyone's hand. No, come in through the back door, go up on stage, do your speech, and get out of there. Like this should not be like it's a show. Like I keep saying that. Like I'm not against it happening. I'm against the way it's happening right now.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay, so
go ahead, Mike. Yeah, I know you want to
clarify some of the confusion about this. You're looking at a difference of how the media is presenting the event, which is filled with pomp and circumstance, and some of the highest.
Well, hold on. For the record, I saw the entire thing. I watched it, so it's not the media. The last thing I do is go to the media because I don't want their viewpoint. I want to watch it and get my viewpoint.
No. You're missing or maybe I'm not explaining myself well. Let me clarify. I'm talking about the way that the media is there before and throughout and after, and they're using this event and the fact that it's important to put out their own messages, very often hyper partisan, doesn't matter left or right, but they're using this to get out their own messaging and to piggyback off of the president. So that's extending the process. We don't need to, literally, you don't need to watch all the pomp and circumstance. You can listen to the speech. Nowadays, much like we did in the past when it was just a written document and it was presented to the full House, and it was read by the recorder of the House, and he would present it from the president to the speech. You didn't have to be there, and it was just the speech. So you can do that. But what we see is people are watching the entire process because it's the beginning, the end, the commentary that is flavoring that. The speech itself is fine. All presidents do it, and we should. And especially, why did we have so many people being acknowledged for the exceptionalism that they have done? One, because there is a huge number of 21% of Democrats are progressive socialists, and they are instilling in our youth and into our entertainment, into most media platforms, their abject hate of America. Donald Trump is fighting against that. He's also celebrating the 250th year of our country. And this is part of that celebration. It's that acknowledgement that there is a long history, and there's a reason why people dedicate and give so much to America, and they should be honored for that. I think part of what he was doing this year specifically, which was very different than most years, the longest one ever, was to celebrate America, because we've been here for 250 years, and most people think we wouldn't be here. So I think there's that aspect which isn't really spoken about. Should be. We should be talking about America's been here for 250 years. We're still great. We're still free. In fact, we're more powerful. We're more successful than anyone ever imagined could be happening. And because we are so successful, so powerful, and so free all at the same time, the rest of the world has been lifted up. Poverty has been reduced because of what we have done. And that's worth celebrating, I think.
Speaking of being here 250 years, I do have to go. I have a meeting in 15 minutes. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for stopping by as always.
Yep. Okay. Bye, everyone.
See you later. Okay. You know what, John? I wanted to ask you, because this is the party you represent. The yelling by Ilhan Omar, the fuck ICE badges, AOC not showing up. How does that sit with you? Those instances.
I can't quite. My things. Is it yours having any trouble?
No, I'm not.
Oh, because mine is, now it's okay, I think.
Okay.
But the broadband was having trouble getting through. I don't know if it was happening to everybody else.
No, I plug directly into the modem to avoid that issue.
happens
I'm not using the
intermittently.
Wi-Fi.
Okay.
You having it too a little bit?
Okay. But I can
Darn.
hear you now. I can
Yeah, see, John, I'm not hearing you too well.
communicate now.
Uh-huh.
Circle. What do you
Yeah,
have?
you're frozen on the screen. John, you're frozen on the screen.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Now it's kind of coming and going. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Could be high volume in your area if you're
Yeah.
using like a Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
It was fine for like almost all.
Yeah, the last 20 minutes or so. Just as a note, if you can hear us when you
Yeah.
when you're doing a live streaming, you might want to buy an Ethernet cable and just plug right into the modem. That's the trick that's suggested to get a better connection, so you don't
Okay.
drop out.
That might
But it
be
happened to me like 3 or 4. Yeah, it happened to me like the first 30 shows. I'd say 10% of them I was stalling, and actually had to cancel 1 or 2 of them. And I plugged in, and it's been better. So if you can't hear me,
Yeah.
we'll just
I
leave
can
it
hear
for
you
another
now.
time.
Now it's
Okay,
coming. I don't know what happened.
Did you hear my question?
No, I didn't, but I can hear you now.
Okay, Ilhan Omar was, yelling, did a lot of yelling at the president. Rashida Tlaib had fuck ice badges, and so did other Democrats. AOC didn't show up. I want your opinion on that kind of those acts, based on the fact that you're a Democrat. Like, how does that sit with you? Those types of things.
Well, it's a tough issue because for the way we are as a society, we're a very divided society, and there's a lot of questions with Democrats, and I'm sure maybe Republicans think the same way, that giving a president now legitimacy is a question which we never used to have. So even though it'd be a different party, there was a lot more respect of the president, and it's really being lost for both parties. And it's going to be like this challenge between both parties. Both parties are going to lose from this. But there's just a question, I think, of legitimacy and questions of like who's really an American, and a fracturing of America. And I don't know exactly what the endpoint's going to be, or we're going to be more unified, or how we're going to get kind of unified. But I see it now. It seems to be progressing. Like you said, first someone, yelled out something to Obama in a State of the Union, and that was a big deal. And now not attending is, for some, is more of a norm. And I think both parties are not going to attend because they don't want to legitimize each side. And it's not good for democracy. But I would rather attend if I was a congressman and be there for an event like the State of the Union. But unfortunately, the way we're going is to division and not to unity. And it comes down to you want to support your president, but aren't legitimate for the other party.
All right. Mike, have the last word in this, and we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, because I'm not aware of Republicans not showing up. Yes, if you're talking about sitting on any given issue, yeah, there's that. And yes, there is a question of legitimacy in a manner. More so, we hear that from the left, because for the last decade, they have been attacking Republicans, and in particular Donald Trump, because they have Trump derangement syndrome. And so they want to attack his legitimacy to advance their agenda. You don't really see that from Republicans. Yes, many Republicans agreed that Biden, as an example, was a part-time zombie president because he was a part-time zombie president. And we know that now because we were lied to by the mainstream news media and the top Democrats that were protecting Joe Biden, protecting themselves, and hiding the truth from us. But now we know the truth. It's now come out into mainstream media. Yeah, he was mentally disabled. And much like with John Fetterman, who I like, still, neither Fetterman nor Biden should have been in office, but Republicans showed up to every one of the State of the Unions.
Okay, hold on, Michael. Trump didn't show up. Michael, Trump didn't show up to Biden's inauguration, and that was disgusting.
He didn't.
He should have been there.
He didn't have to.
That was horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, but I'm talking about State of the Union. I'm talking about
it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other.
No, they're two different events, and it's two different things. You don't have to have the president there. That's a bunch of just pomp. That's showmanship. We don't need a president to be there when the new one gets inaugurated. Doesn't have to. That's not required.
It's respect.
Yeah, and he didn't respect him. But that's not the same thing as the State of the Union, which is.
I see your point. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. I see your point. Yeah. One is like a mandatory thing that's your responsibility, and one is like your choice, right?
Yes. Yeah. That to me makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And the thing that is too is we don't see, if you can hear me here, is the denial of the election. Because Donald Trump says that he didn't lose the 2020 election, but then again, behind closed doors for Democrats, the 2024 election. So it seems like both sides are going to try to maybe take this tag. Is that good for democracy?
Oh, it's horrible
to claim that if they lose.
Trump was right. 300,000.
They didn't really lose.
Oh man, that's another hour and a half.
Wait a minute. It is a fact in Georgia. The court has ruled on this. 300,000 mail-in ballots were incorrectly and yes, illegally counted, which would have changed the vote in Georgia, which would have changed the 2020 election. Yes, that's a fact. That's not a question. Donald Trump was correct. The procedures in multiple states, not just in Georgia, but in multiple states were changed at the last minute, which have been in court and have been proven to be unconstitutional. They have been corrected back to what they were previously, which means that we had an abnormal environment for that election. Trump, whether he said it properly or not, whether people like that he said it, he wasn't wrong. But it's moot because we've already moved past that moment. In terms of 2024, that environment didn't exist. Those conditions didn't exist. Democrats didn't like the results because it was a blowout, and America made a very clear decision. But I get why they want to say, but it wasn't really fair. Yeah, because you lost. But if we use the rules that they have established, then there should be no question, except they keep changing the rules. Democrats, again, leadership. The Democrat leadership always love to change the rules and have two tiers of rules, one for them, that it gives them an advantage, and then we have everyone else. But I won't go any further on that because I can.
Yeah. So here's the deal. We're going to give the last word to Gracie. Gracie says there have been a lot of abnormal election environments where Dems have won. And we're going to leave it there for tonight, folks. This has been fantastic. Oh, wait, we got one more.
I thought we were going to talk about Mandami.
No, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
I'm next week. Democracy is the will of the majority. So is gang censored. I used to be only landowners voted. Universal suffrage was a mistake. All right. Wow. Universal suffrage, is it a mistake? We should actually do a show on that. I like that user.
He's pulling your chain.
Do a show on that. And Mike, we're gonna leave it here for tonight. Next week we'll do a local. We did a local tonight with the Toilet Tap and brought that to continue. That's actually a story we're gonna continue to follow, which is I'm glad. So is Memdani and what's going on there. So our local piece will definitely be that next week for sure. Because I am interested in that, but we're going to leave it here. We're almost at 2 hours, and I want to thank you guys for your time, and Joe as well. John, great. I knew your personality would fit right in. Thanks so much for being here. And
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I know
Yeah.
you got meetings sometimes on Monday evenings. So when's the next one? Do you know offhand?
Okay.
When?
Yeah, next week, my father's 88th birthday. So we're going to a birthday party for him. But in 2 weeks,
Nice.
as far as I know, it sounds good. And I love doing this. So I don't want to seem like next week I'm trying to bail out, because I love this rapport and being able to go with Mike and Joe head to head. And Joe was actually my political opponent, even though it was which I liked, it was a very wonky election. I'm not sure if Mike's was that way, but we really discussed the issues. That TV debate, which you saw, was, I think, really, really wonky. I like that word wonky. It sounds geekish, but I teach American government, and I love discussing constitutional law and the government and the way the processes are supposed to. I do that all day, and I do that for a living, which I really get excited about.
Right.
And the students
you got to assign this
questions.
You got to assign this the show to your class. You get more viewers.
It would be.
It's mandatory to watch the opinion guy on Monday nights.
Start tuning in. They might start tuning in. And it was really neat, because unbalanced is not good for democracy.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a very balanced show. I love it. Thanks to you. We were unbalanced, and I kept on saying it. All right, folks. Thanks so much for being here this evening. And thanks to everybody out there for being here this evening. Yeah. I don't know where in the world you are or what time it is in your neck of the woods, but no matter the time, I hope you had a good time. This time, until next time, we and Joe will see you later.